like what I noticed in the videos that you're posting on Instagram and YouTube and that kind of stuff, your own practice,
Yeah.
is kind of like a general lackadaisicalness of initiating hand speed.
Hey guys, we are back with the second episode of the reboot to getting started in 3-gun, guns and gear. It has been a very wild ride up and down the scores of carry optics for me, and in a couple of weeks we'll put out a video of that progress. I want to get one more 3-gun match in with all the correct open class gear. My dissident arm shotgun comes this week, and I've been playing with some new handguns. It's super fun, and we'll get into all that in about 2 weeks from the time you see this episode. If it's the future, then you can jump right to it now. But I had a really amazing phone call or Zoom call, whatever you want to call it these days, with Charlie Perez. He noticed something very obvious that I wasn't seeing, which is a significant lack of aggression in my practice, and that was translating into my performance as well. So this is all through the lens of a mag change, which is not probably the most important skill. I mean, it's a big skill for us. It certainly looks good on the Instagram, but it is not something we do a ton of. But what was really important about this whole conversation you're about to watch is what he really dug into with me was my aggression and my setup. So it's where things are and how aggressively I make these moves to get to my equipment. And what I really got from it too is when you inject the aggression into your hand speed, it also injects aggression into all your movement. And so most of what we're doing when we're drawing, when we're reloading, when we're going for a mag change for our pistol, whatever it is going to be in a moment of movement on the course of fire. And when you inject that hand speed into whatever that administrative skill is, it immediately injects it into your feet, into your body, into your motion, and gets you moving. So shoot smooth, move aggressive really seems to be a kind of where I'm at the moment, and it falls apart because I don't have the muscle memory yet to do it every single time. So I'm starting to see some of this kind of make its way into my shootings. There was definitely I was kind of plateaued, and then it started to dip, and then as I added these new skills in, and then I'm starting to kind of come back up now above where I was before. So I've moved into, in carry optics, some of that low 60% versus high 50% off the top guys. Nothing I'm gonna write home to mom about, but it's certainly, I'm starting to see this motion. And the other thing I would say too, especially for you 3-gunners, is one of the real benefits I've gotten from shooting USPSA so much this year is their scoring system really allows you to actually see how you're doing from match to match to match. Where in 3-gun, you're really always kind of chasing a guy who's a little better than you. But when you beat them, you don't know if they had a bad day or not. But with the USPSA system, you can really start to see the performance show up. You can see it in the number of hits you're getting, the alpha to Charlie to delta ratio. You can see it in hit factor in a way you just can't see it in 3-gun. So it's enough of that. Look for a new video in a couple of weeks. Until then, really, the next 35 or so minutes with Charlie Perez is full of gold. I highly recommend watching every bit of it for those of you that are interested in learning something new today. So hope you guys are well, and there'll be a short note at the end. What I've been doing is I kind of took your formula, and I just take where I am in the overall as a percentage, right? Mm-hmm. And then I take all the targetry and my time and give myself a hit factor for the match.
Yeah, match hit factor, that's good.
And that helps me really see, because if my hit factor were to go up and my percentage went down, then I would know that it was related to what you're talking about. But it's very clear I peaked and I dropped. Now I'm not freaking out about that, but for the purposes of telling this story online, which the next videos do probably here in a couple of days, the percentage is a useful tool to show. Because I'm going to go out and say I didn't practice like I was practicing for 4 weeks, and here's what happened. Boom, I went down, right?
Yeah.
So, because I have no shame about that, right? It's just that's what happened. Mm-hmm. So, and then what's really interesting though is that out on the 3-gun range, I am not what I used to be. I'm like all these new skills, all this new stuff going on. I am just, I'm struggling big time. I was like 4th TAC ops on Wednesday night. That's like I haven't been out of the top 3 in years.
It just keeps us humble, right?
Oh my God, it's bad.
If it was
So,
easy, we'd be doing something else, you know?
well, I know what's really funny though is so many people have moved to open in three gun that it used to be the tac ops guys were generally all at the top with maybe one or two open shooters mixed in the top 10. Now
Hmm.
the top 4 or 5 slots are all open shooters because they're all decent and they're shooting
Hmm.
open.
Cool.
So it's cool, it's great. But like we had one stage where it was all cold starts, and there's no way you can beat an open guy with a cold start, right? Because we gotta, and they're just
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it's fascinating, but it's fun. What I am really enjoying is I'm really enjoying shooting pistol only matches, and I never thought I would.
Cool.
So that's
Well,
cool.
so the stuff that I wanted to talk to you today about, I
Yeah,
think is, I mean, it pretty much translates across all gun games, so to say.
cool.
And like what I noticed in the videos that you're posting on Instagram and that YouTube and that kind of stuff, your own practice
Yeah,
is kind of like a general lackadaisicalness of initiating hand speed.
got it.
Now, that's different than like maximum speed. Like if I were to move my hand like super fast across something, like I could start off really slow and then go fast,
Okay,
right? So I'm kind of correlating with that where you have this, I got to get going and then I got to move my hands fast.
100%.
Where I, I think if you change the trigger, like pun intended, if you change the trigger to as soon as my hand needs to move, it needs to move fast immediately like this. Boom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
see it because when I do my reload, I'm like, I go and I get myself all situated, and then as soon as I'm on target, I'm like, then this was fucking Jesus Christ. Then the speed happens, right?
yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
good on
So
video.
let me change the angle of my
Yeah,
computer
yeah, cool.
and hopefully I can stand in a place where you can see, try to see all the way to my belts.
Yeah,
Try to stand. Can you see down here? Can you see my
can.
hand?
Perfect.
Okay. So, and can you still hear me good? Hopefully with these
Yep.
headsets.
No, it works.
So before we do anything, what I wanted to do is show you like I got a clear gun.
Yep. Same for
Okay.
me for the recording.
Okay. Good.
So just I've been just a quick question for you. So I've been taking my gun, right? And with my the striker fire guns, I've been locking my just kind of jamming my gun out of battery.
Yeah.
I've got
So you
full
can get,
trigger access.
yes, you get a little bit of tactileness. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it literally takes. Then I could run the trigger
Yeah.
at full tilt. I don't know if that's something you are for or against. Or Ben Steger recommends that in his book, and it's nice because then when you're doing, you can actually take it to the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever tools you need
All
to
right.
like, I actually learned a pretty cool thing from Tim Herron when I took his class
Yeah.
is that he's a big proponent of when he's dry firing, he'll just dry fire on a dead trigger, meaning the
Yes.
hammer's always down. That way you kind of get used to you're running your finger through the whole action
Yes.
and not mashing, so to say.
Correct.
And that way, like if you're doing a drill and you're just running through the whole action of the trigger, it's not something different. Like you get that first click and then the rest is this weird dead trigger thing.
Yep.
So I've been changing it up a little bit to kind of like not so worry about that one click. Um, the other thing that I really like to do is if I have, so the Atlas guns, like if you can see my hammer's back, I got
Yep.
about a 2.25 pound trigger.
Yep.
So I can whap on this thing pretty aggressively, but not drop the hammer. So
Yes.
I think that's good from a perspective of if you build in a really aggressive transition and you dry fire into a target, but you don't drop the hammer, that's important
Got it.
because we kind of all get into the mode of let me get over there and just mash the crap out of it,
100%.
and so that kind of
You're
facilitates a
riding.
little
You're
bit more
riding right
grace.
on the breaking point there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been.
so,
Cotter had me doing like all my drills for a while. So just when I was presenting the gun, is coming up and just going so right to the wall, and then the second shot break, right? So you're just like,
yeah,
and then you
yeah,
really have to manage your shooting when you do that.
yeah,
This one's 1.5 pounds.
yeah. That's super heavy, bud.
And if you ride right there, actually, at that gun, I got to adjust my travel on that one. It walked out a little bit, and I went the other night.
So from a hand speed perspective,
Yep.
it, so I'll do a couple examples of the correct hand speed, and I won't even have my gun in my hands.
Got it.
I'll just show you the correct hand speed of this hand down and back up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just do this a couple times, and I want you to watch the hand speed here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay. See the hand speed? 3, 2, 1. You see that as soon as the hand starts to accelerate, and that's what I was talking about. As soon as my hand needs to go, it's immediately to the proper velocity.
Yeah.
And there's no lingering in the pouch. Okay.
Yep.
Now, so this hand speed down to the mag, I like to call this a slap. So if I'm slapping my hand down at the mag and then back up, at that level or the rate of that speed, there's no time to steer this magazine.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So if super bad scenario, let's say that I put my pouch like this. Can you see this mag sticking up at the wrong angle?
Yep.
So if I were to reach down for this, I would have to break my wrist to grab it, to grip it.
Yep.
And then it's straightening out at the worst possible place right at the gun.
Right at the gun.
Okay. So a big thing, and one of the cool things about the latest rule changes with USPSA is you can put your mags wherever you want. You can put them whatever angles. So it's really important, I think, that if we're going to do this slapping, this aggressive slap down and back up, we need to maintain a straight wrist. Because I want to do this stuff with gross muscles, meaning I don't want to, if we think about the strength of my arm this direction with a straight wrist versus the strength of this muscle, right? My wrist is way weaker than my whole arm, right? So I want to do this pounding down to this mag and back up with a straight wrist. So if we look at from a perspective of this wrist, if this is my shooting position and I come down, look at how straight my wrist is when I'm gripped onto the mag. So I'll show you a couple of different angles here. Okay. Now, if you look at your wrist is a little bent.
It is. Yep.
Right. So this is what anatomically we're all a little bit different.
Yep.
So where we are at, like our pouches are on our belt, like the registration, the horizontal registration of where it's on the belt and the tilt of it is going to look a little bit different for everybody because everybody's a little bit different, right?
Yep.
It looks like you're wrenching your stuff.
Well, I'm just going to get this first one in position, right? And then I'll deal with the second. I care less about the second one.
Other ones later.
Yep. So I'm finding this has to be damn near flat for me. That's incredible. So right now I'm essentially, for me to get it flat, which is what you were asking for.
Yep.
I'm basically, the mag's damn near flat.
Yep. And that's to be it looks like from your elbow to your wrist is pretty long.
Okay.
And usually people with a long forearm end up with a lot flatter mag. Does that make sense?
Okay. 100%. Okay.
Okay. So this is where don't even worry about having your gun out. I just want you to have your hands in a grip motion, and I want you to slap down to that mag. Faster, more aggression. Bam, there we go. Boom. Yes. So I would say, and this is the humbling part, is that second slap that you did was almost there.
Sweet. Okay, good.
Right? So it needs to be, and when I say the almost there, once your hand is accelerated, that's fast enough. Okay? Yeah. Your hand speed down and back up, you're not lingering in the pouch, which is great. What I need you to really focus on is that initial acceleration. Yes. That was perfect right there. Yes. Boom.
Oh, that's different.
Yep. Now, once we get this, it's important that I have people focus on this fast hand speed down and back up.
Yep.
Because once you build that hand speed, it's going to basically dictate the trajectory of this mag coming up.
Okay.
Okay. Now, a lot of people will bring, so this is how we incorporate the gun into the mix. And that's why I start people out with just using their hands.
Yeah.
Now, A lot of people will pick a place. They'll say, I'm just going to randomly bring the gun down here, and then I'm going to steer this magazine to my predetermined location of the mag well.
Sure.
Well, that doesn't work if we have really fast hand speed and the trajectory of the mag is up here.
I got it.
Right? So if the trajectory ends up being up here, the solution is, let me bring the gun up to meet. So what we really need to do is a bunch of loads where we do it. So if you watch my hands here really quick, let me see if I can come. Oh, this is good. What I'll do is I'll artificially bring the gun back lower than it should be. Okay. So we do this, we go, okay. So the solution here isn't this. The solution is this.
I got it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So what I need you to do is do a bunch of, we're going to do a bunch of iterations of, let me get the load to where they're almost meeting, but they're not inserting. And then we're going to tune the position of the gun to match the trajectory of the mag.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes I got enough video of me fucking sticking mags into my hand to know that my gun's out of position when all right. So you're saying, so I need to bring.
But a faster hand than that.
Okay.
Because if we slow our support hand down, that's going to change the upward trajectory of the mag. There we go. So now you're going to have to bring the gun back and up to meet that trajectory.
Okay.
There we go.
Pretty close.
Really close. Yes. And it's super important that in this training, like I would say that when you're relearning this parking space,
yes,
I like to say that we want to get the mag to this 80% point, meaning this is the 80%. It's almost in the mag well, but it's not inserted. The mag hasn't cleared the entry of the mag well.
Yeah, I got that.
And what this does is it basically makes you division agnostic, meaning your gun could have a mag well or not.
Yes.
And you're still going to be very successful in getting the mag in the gun, because if we have this built-in very minute pause here, that's going to ensure alignment before we seat it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There we go. Now, I don't know if you watch, it's kind of hard to, my picture of myself is super small, so I can't see if you can see me in here.
I'm good.
So once we get it to load to this point, if you watch my hand speed, we need this to be, okay?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. That is totally secondary to this slap, and I like to call it the parking position of the gun.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't figure out the slap and the parking position, the seating is not going to matter because the shit's not going to be lined up. Right?
Yeah. There seems to be some good news for me here, because the natural, like my arm feels natural where it's supposed to be, right?
Yep.
It's a little off there, but all I'm doing is rotating my wrist under, and it forces my elbow to drop. Yeah. And that seems to be just about damn near where I am, which is good because then I can straight to lockout from there in theory, right?
Yeah. So the other super hard part to explain this to newer shooters is that they're like, well, let me slow this whole thing down to really like see every little bit of it. Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that's like, you can't learn to run if you don't run, right? You have to do this stuff at full velocity hand speed to figure out where the stuff needs to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So what you need to do is have that 100% hand speed to this point, then 100% hand speed to finishing it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'll live with a complete pause here, because to me, this pause is insurance.
Yeah.
Right? This is insurance all day long. I want to get the mag in the gun. That's my top priority right now, is get the mag seated.
Yep.
And if there is misalignment and I've built this minute little bit of a pause in this load,
yeah,
then I'm like, I don't care how long I'm running in a stage like this with the gun up and the mag almost inserted, because this will always be rewarded, right?
Yes, it will, right?
The mag in the gun.
Yeah. No, 100%. Because look, what's the worst? The worst thing that can happen, other than dropping the mag, right, is ending up out of alignment, and then you got to fucking
Yes.
right, and that takes my attention totally off what I'm supposed to be doing.
So that brings me to the next point: is that what are we normally doing when we're doing a reload during a field course stage?
Moving.
We're moving, right?
Yeah.
And our eyes want to go. They want to gravitate to where we're going, right?
Yes.
The next shooting position, the next target, the next thing. And we've all done it and seen that person trying to do a reload, and they're like this.
Yes.
Right. So that the sooner that we can call our load, like instead of calling our shots, we want to call our reload. We can see the mag entering the mag well. Then at that point, we can abandon looking for the mag well and then look to where we want to go.
I get it.
Does that make sense?
100%.
But the smaller we make this window of boom, and then see, and then that will like kind of eliminate that feeling like I'm behind schedule, right? Because as soon as we feel like we're behind schedule, we're going to look at where we need to go.
Yeah.
And your load's going to be bad.
That's usually where some really crappy comment gets loaded up in my head that I may or may not say out loud.
Yeah.
That's also very helpful. Yeah. Okay, cool. Can I bother you for one more detail?
Yes.
So, because what you brought up for me is, I think, something I'm missing everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think my general rule of thumb right now, and I think it's really costing me a lot, is like, let's take the draw for a second, right? So I'm like, I want to make sure my hand's so good on the gun right here that then when I bring it up, I can go fast, right?
Yeah. So it's the same thing on the draw. As soon as your hand starts to move in velocity, like acceleration immediate. So it should just be like, bam. There's no pause here. Like if I think about building my grip,
yeah.
As soon as the gun is, the front strap is touching here on my middle finger, and as soon as I feel the back strap here on the palm of my hand, it's coming out. Right? So I don't know if you can see this. So super slow motion. If you look at my fingers, as soon as I have this amount of touch, like these fingers aren't even around yet, I'm starting to come out. Then as soon as the gun's about here, my grip is finished. Right? Now the thing about like a big problem that a lot of people have in building a grip on the gun while they like on a super aggressive draw is that, let me change this angle of this. So you can see the angle of my gun. I'm standing in a normal, I'm standing here, I could talk to you all day stance. You see how my gun is tilted that way? The top of it is tilted out that way a lot?
Yes.
That is not the proper place. My grip would be over registered this way if I'm in this stance.
Okay.
If I'm in my shooting stance, where's the gun now? It's straight up and down in the correct place. Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
So a lot of people, unfortunately, will set up the position of their gun in a, I'm going to stand here and talk to you all day position. But then when they go to run or take a step, the registration is off, and then they want to slow down their draw.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the way this particular holster is set up. As soon as I go down, it cants the gun in, right?
Yes. So you may have to, and that's why mine's artificially out that way when I'm in a normal stance.
Yep.
Okay.
I haven't selected
another thing to consider
this was the old one that I had around.
So usually when we are taking a step, usually when we are in a field course stage, what are we doing on a draw? We're usually taking a step in the direction we need to go.
Yeah.
Can you see? I have to lower this a little bit more.
Oh, that's good. I get a sense of it though.
So if you watch the angle of so I'm in a shooting stance. Can you see my gun here?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to take a step with this leg, and I want you to just watch the angle of the gun.
Yep.
Okay. See how much it's tilting in?
Yes.
Right? So in that scenario, if I were to go this direction, if I take a crossover step, look at the position of the gun, stays a lot more consistent place. So that's an important thing to think about from a strategy perspective, because usually we're like, at least in USPSA matches, there's a lot of stages where you start where your toes are touching a fault line, you're standing outside the shooting area. But to get shooting, all you do is take one step into the shooting area, right?
Right.
So if I were to take that one step into the shooting area, so I'll take a step with my right foot, and you just watch the angle of this gun. Okay.
Totally messes it
That's,
up.
yep. So I'll take another step, but I'll take a step with my left leg and watch the angle of the gun. Okay.
Fairly consistent there.
Yeah. So I have the delay of that initial step to get the draw done before it changes position.
Uh-huh.
And that's like a common problem that I see that a lot of newer shooters do is that, let's say that the first shooting position is 3 or 4 strides away, right?
Yep.
If it's 3 or 4 strides away, they do this like, oh, I'm going to just lackadaisically grip my gun and then draw it as I take my steps.
Yeah.
Well, that adds more opportunity of moving this leg, and then the gun's in a weird place.
Got it.
So you always have to think of, regardless of how speedy, like there's in most USPSA matches, it's pretty rare that you're drawing straight into your first target.
Yes.
Where it would require I like to call it like a rocket drop, like super fast hands.
Right.
But it's also, so in that mindset, a lot of people would think, well, I have 3 strides to go. I don't have to draw it really fast. Well, think about it this way. Our appendages work in tandem from an aggressive perspective. So if I have a really lackadaisical grip on the gun and that kind of thing,
yes,
my foot movement is going to be lackadaisical.
I got it.
So if I have to leave aggressively like this direction, I want to be bam, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I have fast hands, it's going to be fast feet, because aggression in appendages breeds aggression in other appendages.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Does that answer your
really
question
good.
about that stuff?
What's that?
So does that answer your question about this lingering in the holster thing?
100% it does. Yep.
Okay.
No, because I'm screwing around with like, do I go real deep? Do I set myself up bladed? Because in 3-gun, if I've got my rifle or my shotgun, so I'm still playing around with all these body positions.
Yeah.
So, as my gun, I've tried, now you're way up front, right? And low, that's a problem because it tilts in. But if I'm standing, weighted on my back leg for my shotgun, then it's actually I haven't figured out,
there's going to be a like, it's a death by 1,000 little cuts, and there's a give and take to everything, right?
Yes. Yep.
So you're going to have to figure out that good works in most cases position of your stuff.
Yep.
And just, embrace the suck when it's not going to work out, right?
Yep. No, I think it's actually further back than I think. Because, in all honesty, like when I go to like this holster setup right here, which is the 3-gun, and I've got the retention holster, because here I get way more thumb strength to get that breakout, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like no matter what position I shoot in back here, I seem to have the most stable straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I come up front, it messes me up everywhere except for in like that first straight on starting position, which we never get to do.
Yeah. So any kind of gun handling stuff, you need an injection of hand speed. Like, we can't do fast draws or fast loads without decent hand speed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we also have to have very efficient hand speed, right? So that means that, let's say that I had my holster, let's say that my gun was back here.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at my shoulder, so I'll super slow motion draw my gun, and I want you to see what is moving in my body. So what body parts are moving here?
Shoulder, elbow. That's about it.
Is my head moving at all?
Not at all.
How much is my shoulder changing in height here?
Very little.
Very little. Okay. So let's say that my gun was back here. If you just watch the mechanics of my shoulder, anytime we have this up or down registration of a shoulder or movement of head and that kind of stuff, that is time. It's time, and it's also inconsistency.
Yes.
Right? So when we try to inject hand aggression in these, like, we're moving a lot more muscle groups, it's harder to do that stuff consistently.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think about like a super slow motion gun handling scenario of, let me move the least amount of stuff possible while I'm doing this, same thing with the reload, right? So if I'm doing a reload, what's moving here?
It's all the same stuff.
It's all the same stuff, right? So that's the other part of it, right? So if we have to move a bunch of small twitch muscles and big twitch muscles all aggressively,
Yeah.
you're going to have less consistency,
Yeah.
right? So we want to move the least amount of stuff possible. Then we can inject precision aggression into that, and then it's very consistent.
Huh. Cool. It's amazing.
Make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. It's just hard to discover on your own in a basement.
Yes. So one thing that so we were talking about, we started out with this first pouch.
Yeah.
I think you may have to do a little bit more homework on that specific position of registration this way on your belt,
Okay.
and the tilt angle of it, right?
Yeah.
And as you start slapping down to these things, where this mag hits the palm of your hand, that's going to tell you if your stuff is in the right place.
Got it.
From a horizontal registration perspective. So it should be hitting the base pad should be hitting the meat of your palm if it's up here, right? If you keep hitting here, it needs to go more this direction on your belt. If it keeps hitting the heel of your hand, it needs to go this direction on your belt.
So right now it's hitting me just like that.
Good. But how did you grab that? You're like, doo, 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 doo. Yes.
Yeah, but same. I mean, I'm just looking at the.
Good. So, and this is what I want you to do, is that even on make ready, you're like, oh, I'm going to make ready.
Aha.
I'm going to get the, like, anytime you interact with that thing on your belt, it needs to be fast hands.
I got it. Okay, that's cool.
There's no option to be not fast hands.
No, but I've got a really cool, I look amazing when I get ready with all my shit.
We all want a GM make ready, right? So the next thing, so
that's my round, the whole thing, man. It's like
so talking about the next pouches, okay?
Yeah.
So for all of us, like, to make sure that this slap continues to function, we need to maintain a straight wrist, okay?
Yep.
So I'm going to take this first mag out of the equation. Okay. Now I'm going to the second mag. So if I'm in a normal stance and I don't change my upper body position, look at my wrist. It's bent.
Bent, yep.
Right? So the fix for this is this. I'm going to bend a little bit sideways at the waist.
Huh.
Now look at the wrist.
Now it's straight.
Now it's straight. Now this is another thing. I want to use big, strong muscles, my core, to do this type of motion very strong, quickly, and precisely, right? So if I'm slapping down to this mag, it should look like this. Whoops. Try one more time. Okay. So that little bit of a tilt away from the pouch and back keeps my straight wrist, and then I can aggressively slap down and back up.
Yep.
Now the further back we go in our pouches, so here's my third pouch. Look at my wrist, straight upper body. That's very bent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean away. This is where I need to be to get to this pouch.
Got it.
See how far I'm leaned away?
That's amazing.
Okay. So, and it's very easy for us. We have time to do this.
Yeah.
During that slapping motion to make everything consistent. Okay?
Especially if we've gone to our third mag, we're probably we've got a little time.
Well, and it's part of the division you choose to shoot.
Yeah.
Like me shooting limited or you shooting carry optics.
Yeah.
There's the most of the time, I'd say that probably 90% of the time you're going to do one reload during a stage.
Yep.
So that means that the predominant amount of work, dry fire work you're going to do is to this first pouch.
Yeah.
Now there are times where maybe strategy wise, it makes sense to do 2 reloads during a field course stage because the round count isn't making sense, that kind of thing. Right. But for me, shooting limited, I can fit 21 rounds in each mag, but I normally only jam 20 in there.
Correct.
So once my stage plans get to about 18 rounds in one mag, then I'll regardless of if I have to do a reload and finish one target, that's what I'll do.
Got it.
Like, because I know for myself, my behavior is if I, let's say the stage is a 22 round stage, I could load 21 plus 1 and shoot that stage. But what I know is, I don't have any makeup rounds and I can't turn off that shot calling engine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shoot the whole stage consciously, which is going to be slower.
Correct.
Versus saying, I'm going to just do a reload during the stage, even though I don't really need it. That way, if I need a makeup round, I'm not going to be distracted by it.
Got it.
And everybody has a little bit of different, like based on the division they're shooting, that kind of stuff, how many rounds they want to shoot in every mag, which makes them feel comfortable, or this feels normal. Like
Yeah.
I've shot a ton of years in limited, and once my round count gets to about 17 to 19 rounds, that's when the itch in the back of my head's like, you might
Mm-hmm.
run out, you might run out. And when I have that feeling, I start shooting consciously instead of subconsciously because I
Yep.
don't want to run the gun dry.
Yep. And that's I definitely know that from the shotgun space. That's the place in 3 gun where we're constantly riding the edge of like, what's the amount to carry, what's the amount to have, because all that, it's not like magazines to take up no space or
Yeah.
an easy change. You've really got to make a conscious decision. And there are times when you go to slide lock intentionally in order to, and it's dumb, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So one last thing I want to point out about the reload is we talked about discovering this parking space of the gun based
Yep.
on the trajectory of the mag. Now,
Yep.
what I found when I was relearning this reload stuff is that if we look, let me see if you find something in the background, look at the height of my mag well. This is
Yep.
my shooting position. This is my reloading position. What's the height difference? Shooting position, reloading position.
It's nominal. I mean, it's
Very
almost
similar, right?
Yeah. Yep.
To me, so feeling wise, this feels like I'm doing this.
Yes, it does. I got it.
Okay.
I
So
know. I noticed
you're
that.
going to have that feeling like I'm raising the gun a ton,
Yeah.
even though it's coming back and staying at the same height.
Yep.
Okay. Now, one advantage, a huge advantage of keeping the gun high is usually our head point matches the mag well. Okay. So if our parking space is down here, our head is going to tilt down, and it's actually very tough for us to change directions balance wise if we tilt our head down.
Yes.
Okay. So, and what are we normally doing when we're doing a reload? We're exiting a position.
Correct.
We're hauling ass. We got to leave the position aggressively.
Yeah.
If the gun is high, our head is going to be high, and we can change directions very comfortably and from a very balanced position.
Huh.
Okay.
Really good.
Now, the thing that may look weird for some shooters is that if I'm really getting after leaving a position, my upper body is going to lean that direction. Okay. So let's take this upright shooting position, loading position. If I'm standing here, the gun is very high. I'm not going to change this relationship between the mag well and my face, but now I'm going to change my upper body to, I got to leave this position. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So some people would say, dude, you're lowering the gun a ton. Well, in reality, compared to my face, it is not changing position.
Huh.
Okay. So don't get distracted by, I need to leave and the gun is a little bit lower. As long as this correlation between, I like to think of it, my chin needs to match this mag well. As long as those two things, and I'm not doing this with this arm,
Yeah.
then we're going to be good.
Got it.
Now, the last thing I'm going to point out here is that our arms, like if you make a fist, okay, so make a fist, straight wrist, take your other arm and try to fight against that, try to collapse this arm. You can usually do it very easily.
Yep.
Now I want you to take this wrist and cant it out like this. Yep, open hand, cant it out. Now give yourself resistance. It's
Pretty
way
strong.
stronger. Okay?
Yep.
This strength, like these guns are heavy, right? These guns are pounds.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're running around aggressively, and if I have a curled fist, straight wrist, it's much more difficult to keep the gun from doing this. Okay? So my normal loading position, so if you look at my hand here, shooting position, loading position, if I were to take my gun out of my hand, look at my wrist. It's in this out position.
Strong.
So the easiest way to think of it is if you were to point the gun, keep your straight wrist, bring the gun back and just let the gun lay. Yes. So it's going to be somewhere in there, but having the gun lay like that gives us a tremendous amount of free strength to battle this.
Weird. That's interesting. Yeah. It also, as soon as you take all that grip strength out for a second, it gives you some, like, I mean, it's very relaxed, right? I mean, it's.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's, I don't want to say it, like, there's really nothing advanced in this game. It's all just technical stuff.
Yes.
But I found that having this wrist lay over, it actually matched the registration of the mag this way better. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is part of, like, everybody's appendages are a little bit different. But the biggest reward that I found out about laying this wrist over is that I didn't feel like I had to muscle the gun to keep it in front of my face, because this generated free strength and it could keep the gun in that position properly. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Now, I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of stuff.
No. I think the main thing, so for me right now is just like, okay, first of all, no more, right? It's just get on that mag and then find that parking spot and then start experimenting with what I'm doing with my hands while I'm in there, get 80%, like what's happening in my grip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would say is I should probably start, once I've got the speed here, right? Is what does it look like to leave this position and do the same thing, right? And
absolutely, you need to figure this stuff out stationary first.
Yes.
And once you figure, like, the best litmus test that I like to do for any of this gun handling stuff, draws and reloads, is that whatever you can do from a stationary position, you should, like, the time, like for a lot of people, it's a shot to shot reload.
Right.
Whatever you can do stationary, you should be able to do in a step in any direction.
Got it.
So if I had to step this way, it should be the same time. Take a step this way, should be the same time. That's for draws and reloads.
Okay.
Okay, so that's your true litmus test. And if, let's say that you're doing a stationary reload and it's X time, let's say it's 1 second, just random numbers here. Say it's 1 second reload, 1 second reload stationary, then you add a step into it. Now it's a 1-2.
Right.
That means you're adding something, right? And usually that adding something is you start twisting your upper body to where you want to go.
Yes.
Okay.
I got
now,
it.
if I'm doing this slap and I twist my upper body that way, I can't get to my first mag.
No.
Okay. So it's like, for me, I like to think of it as, for a reload, I'm going to keep my hip and my shoulder together, locked in, until the mag is off the belt.
Yep.
And once the mag's off the belt, then I can twist my upper body if I have to where I need to go.
No, it's all the more reason to get to that thing immediately, right?
Exactly. So you want to look like reduce that window of opportunity to have misalignments.
Yep.
By smashing down to that next mag as aggressively as you can.
Okay. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, so that is that. That was amazing. Thank you again, Charlie Perez, for taking the time. I do want to just say a couple of thank yous right now. There are some people that are making this possible this year when things are hard to acquire. So first of all, thank you to Supervel Ammunition for helping me acquire ammo when I've needed it this year. Mike Stoker and the guys over there are awesome. I want to thank Arns and Arms. It's my local gun shop. They've done an amazing job in helping help me source equipment and guns when everything is tough to get. And then, of course, huge thank you to Atlas Gun Works for everything. Adam, Morgan, and the whole crew over there are colleagues, but also really good friends of mine, and I just really appreciate all their support this season. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks when we go over all the scores from the last 2 months and deal with my shame.